NSFW, what is your most ducked up first date experience? About 5 years ago I asked this woman out from Plenty of Fish. We decided to meet up and have dinner at a Montana's. They had a damn good fajita selection at the time. Anyway, I show up and she looks significantly better than her photos. Now I know this seems like a good thing. And it was. We really hit it off, and after chatting for about 4 hours the restaurant closes. She says she's really enjoying the evening and wants it to continue. She invites me back to her place to play some Super Mario. I was a pretty nerdy gamer dude. That's the sexiest invitation I've ever received. This is some sweet it. After a little while she excuses herself to the bathroom. I tunnel vision the game and eventually realize she's been gone for about 30 minutes. This seems like a pretty long time to go to the bathroom unless there's some serious issues with dinner. Or maybe she's putting on sexy lingerie. I decide to knock on the door. No answer. Okay, now this is concerning. It's her condo. It's not like she tried to ditch me in her condo. I would have just stayed and eaten all her food if that was the case. I break into the bathroom and find her passed out on the floor with a rubber band tied around her arm and an empty needle lying on the floor. For a while I had on my Cupid profile that I would accept any reasonably pitched invitation to a date. This led to many bad dates. A notably bad one. Guy invites me to a party. I ask a few questions but he's kinda vague. Tells me to dress nice. It ends up being a religious family holiday. He told his family I was his girlfriend. I went with it. I don't know if it counts as a first date but I'll proceed. Went out drinking and ended up sleeping with one of my friend's friend. I had never met her before and we were both pretty drunk when we met. A week after the fact I took her out to dinner. Everything was going great through dinner. The restaurant we went to was near a big higher-end shopping center. After dinner we decided to go to the shopping center and drink at the Cheese Factory bar. She tells me the friend I met her through is working at a store in the shopping center and we should visit her. I say sure. We go there and this girl starts trying stuff on via the common friend takes it up to the counter. I walk up and our common friend looks at me and tells it be $460. I'm like what? I tell her I'm not paying for it. The girl on the date tells me why am I being cheap? Me. The girl I ducked and our friend walk outside to talk about the situation. I let them talk and I said it was a pleasure. Find your own way home. Her house was 30 miles away from the mall and I was the one driving. I left her there and went out drinking with my buddies. The guy was super baked and kept complimenting me on the cute wrinkles on my toes. I went on a date with a guy who seemed pretty confident and stable during the entire time together. We went to the movies and then he dropped me home. He ended the date by kissing me and telling me he loved me. Dateline 1983 San Francisco. I met a girl in small bookstore. We seemed to hit it off so I asked her out. She took me to a nearby ATM to get some cash for dinner and she and her partner tries to rob me. They had been having some success with the setup over the summer. So the SFPD was watching ATMs in the area and arrested them both. I spent the night at a police station being interviewed and writing my statement. No dinner, no first statistics, and the shop sold the book I wanted. Met a guy online and thought he was cool, so met up with him for a coffee. I kissed him on the cheek to say hello, which he took as an opportunity to stick his tongue down my throat and go for a boob grab. I pulled back, and he yelled at me as IT because I'm a ducking retard, in front of a packed cafe. He had a hearing aid. I left pretty quickly after that. The girl didn't know it was a date. I once passed a kidney stone the morning before a first date I had scheduled. I showed up to the date half stoned on Vicodin the doctor prescribed me for the pain. I must have been a pretty fun date, since she eventually married me. Went out with this guy who seemed totally normal at first. We went to dinner and then he suggested going to play pool. Okay, sure. So he's driving us to this dive bar he likes that has pool tables and casually mentions you are so cute. I could just kidnap you and keep you forever. I was young and stupid and thought, he's totally joking. We played pool at this crappy place and then he goes to drive me home and mentions again how much he'd like to kidnap me, going into details on how he'd do it. Luckily he took me home and I didn't talk to him ever again, so no kidnapping occurred. Oh, he also mentioned a few times how he loved my Jewish name and how his parents would love it if he finally brought home a Jew. I was not Jewish. I told him that more than once. It was a really terrible date. Oh man. Freshman in high school. First date ever. We went to a movie. My first warning sign was that he smelled like BO when he put his arm around me. He was just awkward and strange in general, but we didn't interact much because of the movie. His dad picked us up from the theater. The dude knew that the child window locks in the car were engaged and purposefully farted to test me. I remember violently gagging, his dad unlocking the locks, and never talking to that guy again after that evening. She attempted suicide after I dropped her off. She survived, but I haven't dated since. Oh, once. I went on a date with a guy that went really well, until he took me to his apartment afterward. He had a dog that had literally it all over his bathroom and he didn't clean it up. I had to step over all it to get to the toilet and it was all disgusting. Then his dog ate my necklace and chewed up my shoe. 2 months later, he impregnated a girl with the same name as me. It isn't a common spelling. I was kinda talking to a girl for a while and she invited me out for a weekend with all of her friends. We drove about 80 miles away from our area and I didn't know a single person there. When we got to the hotel, she just left me in a room full of people I didn't know. I walk out of the room and see her ducking one of the guys from her group of friends out in the parking lot, in the back of a car. I had to call my mom and ask for money just so I can get my own room. She then asked if her and some of the other people could crash in my room so they all didn't have to share just one. Edit. I didn't leave because I didn't drive there. And yes, I told her to duck off. It was high school. She asked me to meet her friends. I met her friends. She began making out with her ex who was with her friends. I ended the date then. I went on a date with this guy. After dinner we went back to his apartment to hang out. I went to the bathroom and when I came back out he was masturbating on the couch. I made a beeline for the front door and never spoke to him again. He didn't say anything either. My first date was my freshman year of college. Only I didn't know it was a date when she asked me out because she asked if I wanted to catch a movie while we were surrounded by a bunch of mutual friends. I inferred that it was just a group thing and I said sure because yay friends and doing things. I was not romantically interested in her because of a variety of reasons, attractiveness, age difference, etc. So I started to get really uncomfortable when it became clear to me that it actually was a date. I decided to go anyway and we ended up seeing J. Edgar DiCaprio movie about the gay cross-dressing founder of the FBI. Basically not a great date movie. Felt awkward as it after the movie ended and we just decided to go back to our dorm building and never speak of it again. I puked on the way back to the bus stop. The rest of the school year was pretty ducking-itty after that. I met up with a girl from Tinder at a local bar that I go to every once in a while. We met and introduced ourselves only to soon realize that it was amateur comedy night. Seems fun, right? Well, not only were we not able to talk much during the acts, but the very first person up happened to see us meet and asked us if it was our first date. We said yes. Then she asked how we met. We said online. Then she asked us which site and we said Tinder. The rest of the night was us getting completely hit on by all the comedians. I like to think I'm a good sport and all and it totally would have been a fun night otherwise. But it was just not a good situation for a first date where you try to get to know someone. We never talked again. I took a date to a nearby water park, and the better part of the date went very smoothly. I made her laugh a little. I didn't get caught staring at her body in her bikini. We were having a great time. We got in line for an attraction that can best be described as a surfing simulator. It generates small waves and patrons take turns surfing on bungee boards until they fall. As a 19-year-old who wasn't far removed from my skater phase in high school, I was feeling very confident about this ride. Further feeding my ego was the fact that children half my age and younger were killing it, and made this look much easier than it turns out to be. I get on the bungee board stomach first, and for the first 0.6 of a second, things go according to plan. Before I have the chance to stand or even kneel, the board gets spun sideways and shoots out from under me to the start of the ride. As the board slips past me, my swim trunks do the same thing, rocketing down around my ankles before I can even blurt out "Oh it." The waves roll me over, and in the unluckiest of coincidences, my fist slams into my balls. Within seconds the water rolls me back up to the start of the ride, where I'm deafened by the laughter of my date and the other 100 people in line. In the cold water and brisk late summer air, I wasn't exactly bringing my A game, but pantsing myself and punching my scrotum in front of my date was not what I needed. Still ended up getting laid. The most ducked up, I would say, is the one time I was on a date with someone and didn't know it. I said I was cool with hanging out, and apparently she decided to take that as I want to go on a date. So, we just hang at my place, play some video games, and that was it. I mean literally video games and chill. Not long after, I was told by someone else that she told them that we went out on a date, movie, restaurant, my place, 6, that night. As it turns out, she's a complete psycho. Quickly squashed that friendship, and she didn't take it too well. Not so much ducked up, but cringy and embarrassing. When I was in high school and I was out on a date with this girl that I thought was really cute and had a crush on for a while. We went to the zoo and then grabbed some food at some place. Afterwards, we had to split up in order to get our trains that were going in the opposite direction. I awkwardly tried to lean in for a kiss, while she went in to hug me, and I ended up headbutting her in the face and her nose started bleeding. I was embarrassed as duck, so I just asked, "Are you okay?" And when she said, "I think so," I just waved goodbye and ran into the train station. Sitting at a Burger King eating dinner, when this really cute girl at the next table turns around and asks me a question about some kind of trivial. Can't remember what it was, but I happen to know the answer. She turns back to the guy she was with and starts giving him a hard time. He starts appealing to me for support, and from their conversation it becomes apparent to me that they are brother and sister rather than dating. Eventually they invite me to their table. She insists I sit next to her, and we chat for a good hour. Then he says he's got to go run some errands, and she asks me if I could take her someplace. I can't believe my luck. The someplace she wanted me to take her was a Scientology recruitment meeting. I actually sat through the pitch in hopes that she'd be waiting for me when it was over. Instead, I was ushered into a room with a closer who was there to get me to sign up, and who told me that she was probably at home with her husband. I gave them some fake information. Get out and drive home. Never saw them again. Not myself. But here's a story. Me and my friend were hanging out and wanted to invite the whole gang over and hit up Korean BBQ. One of our friends, let's call him Steven, said he was busy and that he had a date set up. Of course he was super stoked and was acting like he was hotter because of it. Then another friend, let's call him Joe, also had to bail because he had plans with a girl. Joe was talking all about how he was gonna get some pussy tonight, and that the girl was a 10 and he was stoked. Turns out, Joe and Steven both show up to her house at the same time, look at each other, and are really ducking confused. It's been a while and they still get pissed whenever we mention their date together. I got matched with a girl on Tinder with only headshots for pictures. She was very attractive in her photos and we had a great conversation over messaging, so I decided to ask her out for dinner. When I arrived, I took a seat at a bench to wait for her, and shortly after, she came rolling through the door in a wheelchair. I don't think I've ever been so shocked in my life. Even though the entire situation was weird to me, I still rolled with it. We had an amazing first date and are now getting married in 4 months. Full stop. Full stop. Full stop. Full stop. Full stop. Not any of the roughly half of internet dates I went on where it was clear the girl was only in it for the free drinks food. Met a girl online who lived way about an hour away. Chatted for a while online. Exchanged pics. She looked okay. Seemed stable. One day was planning an overnight hike and the start was near hers. Thought we could meet up for a coffee before my mates arrived. Met at the station. Barely recognized her. She wasn't a stick in the photo, but this was right off. Said hi. She gave me a hug. She stank like 3-day-old BO. Opened her mouth to talk and she had this coat of black and yellow fur on her teeth. At this point I had 3 hours to waste, so thought I might as well have the coffee then bail if the conversation was no good. She took me to her parents' place for coffee. Okay, weird. Hey, we're right near the beach, let's grab a coffee there. Bloody shop was closed. Sat on the beach and started to chat a bit more. She told me how she hasn't had a job since she was released from military ducking prison and booted from the army. But it's okay because the AA meetings were going well. She wasn't on the wagon but felt like it was time. Emergency MSG was sent from pocket phone. Rescue mission was stood up. Made calls. Oh damn, he will be here soon. Nope, the duck out. Went to the start of the trail and had a nap under a tree till they arrived. Nice walk though. She was a friend of a friend and while at dinner she offered me sugar, to which I declined. When we left the restaurant she walked right over to her parking kiosks, took out a Sharpie and tagged it. She didn't seem like the graffiti artist type but I guess you never can tell. That was our first and last date. Talked to a guy for a while and really liked him. He came to my job to say hey with all his friends before going out. When I got off work, he walked back over and met me. We were supposed to meet up with his friends at this bar. He had given a friend's GF his jacket because she was cold, and his keys were in the pocket. We called his friends over and over and they never showed up. Apparently they all passed out so we ended up walking 3 miles to another bar and just talking. Then we got a ride to my apartment and he ended up having to stay the night. Weirdest first date. Was invited over to a woman's house after a heavy night of drinking. We started tearing each other's clothes off the moment we walked in. Proceeded to the bedroom and went to town on each other. She was quite the screamer. Come morning, I wake to her then 4-year-old daughter entering the room asking, "Is daddy home?" As it turns out, this woman was separated from her husband prior to filing for a divorce. Screamed like mad during sex with her daughter in the next room. Was living at her in-laws house. The second this woman rushed her daughter out of the room, I got dressed, crawled out of the first floor window in the bedroom, and ran like hell to my car without looking back. Never look back. On the plus side, I managed to add and immediately scratch off a few things on my bucket list. 2. I got this. Gentlemen, start your cringiness. At my university, I had to fulfill a foreign culture requirement, and I chose classic Japanese literature. The class was pretty interesting, but there was an adorable Asian girl in that class, who was far more interesting. We immediately hit it off, laughed non-stop, sat next to each other, and all the while I tried to slowly work up the nerve to ask her out. Before I could get the chance, she stops me at the end of class one day and asks, "Hey, do you want to meet me for coffee later today?" My heart skips a beat. I eagerly agree. We set a time and a place. I arrive at Starbucks 10 minutes early, order a drink, grab a table, and wait nervously. Finally, she arrives. She's carrying a briefcase. She plops down in front of me, opens the case, and asks, "Have you ever wanted to run your own business?" and launches into a 20-minute soliloquy about Amway and how you can be your own boss with just minutes of effort a day. Being the polite young man that I am, I sat through the entire thing. I really had no idea what else to do. At the end, I stood up, thanked her for her interest in me, and informed her that it doesn't sound like something I'd be interested in, but I have to get to my next class. We didn't talk much the rest of the semester.